How's it going, OFPs? And welcome to another episode of the Off-Field Players Podcast, the only podcast for aspiring sports industry professionals. I'm your host, Philip Hall, and I hope everybody's having an awesome week or weekend by the time you're listening to this. And yeah, it's another day, another episode. So I'm happy to be putting out another informational interview with my guest I have on for today. But before I go any further with that, I want to remind everybody to make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Off-Field Players Podcast on YouTube if you're watching the video version of this episode. And if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, make sure to follow the podcast to be up to date on future episodes through Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, everywhere where I post audio version of the podcast. And also make sure to follow the social media pages of the Off-Field Players Podcast. It's at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Again, it's at OFP_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. So make sure to follow the podcast on social media to be up to date on the episodes to come and future content that I'll be working on later in the future. But today I have a very special guest here for another informational interview here on the Off-Field Players Podcast. And like the last guest I had on, I connected with her through LinkedIn. She had an incredible profile, a lot of experience, and also, just recently finding out that she's beginning her master's at Liberty University, still working on her pathway of becoming a future off-field player. So, ladies and gentlemen, OFPs, allow me to introduce Miss Nicole Vreen. How are you, Nicole?
I'm good. Hi, guys. Hi, listeners. I'm Nicole, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, originally. And everyone knows about the Pittsburgh sports around here. It's a sports town no matter what. If it's not anything, it's sports. And my journey has been unique, actually. And I'm currently in Tampa right now, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for those watching the video version, you could tell how big of a Pittsburgh sports fan she is by the terrible towels of the Steelers in the back. And yeah, it looked like she's ready for football season. So, definitely great aesthetics there to, be able to, represent here on the Off-Field Players Podcast, because in reality, when we think about it, an off-field player may start out as a sports fan and then later transitioning over to becoming a sports industry professional. So that's really how it goes sometimes. But Nicole, it's definitely awesome to have you here on the Off-Field Players Podcast. Again, your LinkedIn would look very impressive, and also congratulations on your new role as the athletic academic advisor over at the University of Tampa. So definitely, a lot to be proud of there for sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I stepped in this role and I'm ready to roll.
So if I'm correct, like you started at the University of Tampa 3 months ago?
No, I started probably more like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
So I'm fresh in the role. Yeah, I just I worked at the University of Pennsylvania State University. I'm sorry, the university is two different things, two different schools, way two different schools, and in their athletic department, and I absolutely loved it. So now I'm in Tampa. That was hard to say goodbye. I fell in love with everything there, but.
I mean, it's home for you. So, being in that part of Pennsylvania. So I'm sure, having to, have a change of scenery, going from, Pennsylvania to Florida is like a major, a difference when it comes to the weather and culture shock.
You're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, I had the same feeling when I first went away from home, going to college in New York City, and, being from the Bay Area, then moving all the way over to the biggest city in the country. I mean, definitely a lot they had to learn and a lot of different culture changes that I experienced early on.
100%. I could tell you, New York's a culture shock for me, and I'm from one state over. So I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, Nicole, definitely awesome to have you on, and we're just going to jump right into it. So I guess really the one way for me I like to start off when they have guests on is I like them to, give a little bit more about their background. You already mentioned that you're from the Pittsburgh area. You moved down to Florida, just recently. So, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? What was your upbringing like? Where did you go to school? What was growing up like for you?
So, growing up in rural Pennsylvania, I'm daughter to a pastor. So
Oh
my,
wow,
my family, we own a church, yeah, in New Brighton,
nice.
Pennsylvania, yeah. So that way they run, I
Mm,
do all the marketing there, so speaking and kind of, it just comes to me sometimes like it's second nature of growing up in the. So I grew up in the church. I grew up in a very small town though, but like I
mm.
graduated with 60 people in my high school.
Oh my
So that would
goodness.
tell you how intimate we were as a community, and like considering it's only 40 minutes outside of a city, it's fairly tiny. But and I absolutely loved it. It was like we had brutal winters. Don't get me wrong, but we always
Hmm.
had just this, even if it was going out and playing in the snow or in the summer riding bikes. And riding a bike in Pennsylvania, anyone has ever told you, it's the worst thing ever because it's hilly. It's hilly. It's very hilly. Like it's not fun. I actually like. I haven't rode one in years. But yeah. So upbringing, it was great. I was daughter to a pastor. It doesn't necessarily mean they were strict or they were this and that. I was allowed to be who I was allowed to be who I wanted to be, and I adored my childhood. I adore both my parents to this day. So yeah.
Yeah, right on. I mean, that's definitely a unique experience. And, me, growing up in the church, like I'm really close to my pastor, very, big mentor of mine. Shout out to Pastor Lawrence Van Hook. Hopefully he can watch this sometime. But yeah, it's definitely cool to hear you're daughter of a pastor. Really, really unique experience. And, it sounds like, with the town that you grew up in, it seemed like a very community oriented environment, which is,
100%.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely awesome to hear. So, like, as far as just your introduction to sports, when was what was your first introduction like? Were you put onto sports like from your dad or like siblings in your family or somebody that you knew that just like enjoyed watching sports or playing it? Like, what was the introduction like for
From Pittsburgh. So
you?
like when I was a child, when the Steelers had like one of the best teams in the league, I was little. So like everything was just them. You know what I mean? Troy Polamalu,
Mm,
James Harrison, Ben Roethlisberger. I think
yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger has been our quarterback for like my whole life. So it's just like it was always them, just seeing them absolutely everywhere. So it's, and then like when you're with your dad, I love my dad to death. Like we sit there and just watch. We would just watch football game, whether I didn't know what was going on back then, and like just in front of the TV. With my whole family, everyone's got a Steelers jersey on. We're in front of the TV screaming and hollering. It's starting to get cold outside, and there's good food. There's all types of dips and chips, and,
Mm.
and it's a little bit more frustrating watching the Steelers now. But like back then, like I think that's where it just like it's like this is such a it's more than just hit sticking each other. It's like it quite literally brings people together. Like it's always been a part of Pittsburgh, our community. Like it's always been football. My high school, fun fact, has a mural in Heinz Field actually, like
Oh, word.
dedicated to our high school because we had been to the so the not the state championship, but the WPIAL championship, which is the Western Pennsylvania like football thingy, is played in Heinz Field or Acrisure. And
Mm.
we had been so many times, they gave us a little like part of the stadium that has our high school on it. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I mean, that's really cool to know. And like, as far as, it sounds like you watched a lot of football growing up, but like, did you play any sports at all? Like when you were little or in high school? Like, what was
Yes,
that like?
I absolutely. I played basketball, cheerleading, and volleyball for a general statement, but I adored volleyball. Like it was so
Hmm.
fun. Like I even go play it for fun now, or just like when I was at Penn State, I did the volleyball camp. Like it just brought me back to when I was 17. My back was hurting after because I'm not that young anymore. But I haven't moved like that in years. But like
Mm.
like those sports were just, like volleyball especially, and like cheerleading. My high school didn't compete. We were just so small, but like I
Mm.
had fun on the sidelines because I was one of the people that got yelled at for turning around and watching the game. But like, and in basketball, I played up till about middle school until I kind of just like fell out of love for basketball. That's all. It wasn't anything bad that happened. It's just like it just wasn't my sport.
Yeah. And like I heard you mention volleyball. Did you have a chance to watch when Nebraska when like they sold out like their football stadium for that volleyball
Right,
game? Yeah.
that was insane. Yeah, I got just it was so cool. That was so cool. I was like, it was very nice, and it's really like, and like even though it's not like physical, it's a very fun and high intense sport, especially like
Oh
watching it
yeah.
as a fan. It really is. People kind of underestimate how fun volleyball can be.
Yeah. I
Pro
know.
volleyball advocate.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yesterday, I spent a little bit of time because I was just watching TV and like I was flipping through ESPN and I saw that they had Stanford and Nebraska play against each other, and I was like, oh man, like wow, it's like back and forth. Like I've always like enjoyed like watching volleyball. Again, I worked when I was doing athletic event staff work at St. John's. I worked some of the volleyball games for them, and it was just always getting a kick out of just seeing the team play. And even there was actually a girl that was on the team that I had a class with my junior year. She was from Greece, and like we were like good, like really cool friends with each other. And like she was on a team, so like we were always talking about like, oh, like how the team do, or like how much you liked volleyball. And yeah, it's always cool to be around student athletes and just see them on campus and asking them about their sport and their love for it. I always get a kick out of that.
Just like making relationships with the athletes it's also nice. Like it's even my new athlete, because like I have my Penn State ones and then like the new ones I have at UT that I haven't known that long. I still have been like where I get it's just so nice. Like you said, it's just nice to know. Like you never know where someone's from. You might be able to connect that way, or like what their likes and interests in. So it's always nice to meet new athletes.
Oh yeah, for sure. So like Nicole, going forward, as far as the experience, whether that was in high school or college, like when did you see yourself wanting to work in the sports industry? Like what was a moment that you had that struck you to be like, I want to be in this industry?
Yeah. So actually, like when I went to undergrad, I was in political science was actually my major. So completely two different routes. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You can always be a sports law, but it's like it was like I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I transferred from Duquesne University to Coastal Carolina University, where I went to go be a marketing and communications major. And so I'm like doing that. I'm working. I've worked everywhere. I've lived 80 lives, I swear. I've worked in finance. I've worked in just regular business, grant making. I mean, you've seen my resume. You're just like, it's all over the place. And like, just like, I'm like, is this on just sitting here 8 hours? I go home and do it again. And just like, so like, I'm just like, this is not what I want. Like, so I was just like, it wasn't till after I graduated from university that I actually realized I wanted to work in sports. That's it. And sometimes I look back and just like, man, I would have wished I would have worked in sports back then, because I'd be so far ahead of where I am now. And like when college game day came to Coastal, and I could have helped work those kind of things, but we can't dwell on what could have been. You know what I mean? If I sit here and could think about everything I could have done in my life, I'd be as rich as Bill Gates and as beautiful as Beyonce. You know what I mean? So I try not to worry too much about what could have been. So I didn't get my start till I was 21. I graduated 20. I was 21. And I remember applying for a job at Pennsylvania State University and the branch campus Beaver, to be specific. And I'm going to make sure he watches this so he gets that. And I applied for the job, and they were like, well, typically we don't hire people with like really little to no experience in the sports field. Like I have experience, it just wasn't in that realm. They're like, but we like you, so we'll see. And like I fell in love with sports right after that job. Like it was just it was like my epiphany. Like I have to work in this industry. Like it's so fun, and it's something new every single day. Like it's so fun.
I mean, you're not wrong there. I mean, it is definitely fun to be around sports, especially if you've grown up watching it your whole life, and then coming to a realization like, oh wow, people actually work doing this. I mean, it's definitely cool. But I want to go a little bit more back on like when you were in college, because I heard you say you started at Duquesne and then transferring over to Coastal Carolina. So like, what was that like? What made you want to go from being at a small college back home to wanting to go to like South Carolina to be at like a little bit more of a small but kind of tight knit college like Coastal?
Yeah, still like tight knit, but like it's so one, like I've always wanted to, like I was kind of feeling like I kind of want to get out of Pittsburgh, or just get out of my town and just like there's a big world out there. Let's see what. And I had and actually like Coastal fell on my radar in a weird way. I have an aunt that actually lives in North Carolina, Fayetteville, which is kind of close to the border. Not just looking at colleges. Yeah. She actually lives 20 minutes away from his childhood home. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 2014 Forest Hills Drive.
Yeah. So like and I was looking at the colleges in the area, and I'm like, I don't like that one. Don't like that one. That one doesn't start. And then I came across Coastal Carolina University. Read the end, it's like party school. I'm like, ooh, that's a little bad,
Yeah, it's turn
but
off
everyone's
for
like,
me.
everyone that goes there absolutely like just loves it. Like, because you really do feel like a home away from home. And like, if I could relive those years, I would, like, it was just, college was it was like, after I went to Duquesne, I didn't really care for Duquesne. I didn't really feel like I belonged. And, I would never like just tear the school down. Like, that's not what I do. But like, I personally, it just wasn't for me. Let me just put it like that. And I'll just end that conversation right there. And then Coastal, I just felt like I was at home, and like, it was just like, if it just, there's something about it that, and it's not just, the beach, or just like that. Like, I had a great group of friends, great professors, great sports town. That's put lightly. Like, the school was so in love with their sports, and it was just like, it was just such a, like you said, a community. Like, it felt like I should have been there. It felt right. Like, that's where that switch kind of came in. It was like, oh, I want to leave PA. I'm still with my family, but it was just like, I need a breath of fresh air, and it was everything for me. Everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that because I didn't really knew too much about Coastal Carolina up until like, and this is like a while ago because I'm a big baseball guy, and I remember when they had that run when they went on to win the College World Series back in
2016.
2016, yeah, and that was, I was like, oh man, like, wow, okay, Coastal Carolina, like small school, but made to the national championship, and like, and just and won it all. And then now I'm starting to hear more about their football program, how they're now starting to come up to like make some noise in the
guys in the
Sun Belt.
league, and
The guys in the
Isaiah
NFL.
Likely, the Ravens, and there's a few guys that we've put in the league, and like, because the only reason why I know the baseball thing is because it is plastered ginormous on the back of the billboard of the baseball stadium. 2016 World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the school's claim to fame at that point in time. 100%. So yeah, I guess I can definitely understand that. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like, you get your first job, at Penn State, like you're enjoying it. Like, so what exactly was the day to day like for you, when you start working for them?
I was everywhere and back. Like, there'd be days where I'd be the game day manager, sports photographer. I was like the camp counselor, the lead camp counselor some days. Like, because like, I worked at one of the branch campuses, so Beaver, right, which is one of the more smaller, intimate campuses. So it's like, the staff is a little bit smaller. So I was kind of doing everything, which may not have been something I may have got at main campus. Like, I know what everything's like. I was helping with the marketing, and we were working the games, and it was just like, it was so engulfing. Like, I got a grasp of everything, and like, that's why I was kind of like, it was nice to go to a smaller branch because you get to do and know everything. You get to see what you like, what you don't like. And I didn't realize I love taking pictures. That was one of the things I really liked. And I was like, so, and I wouldn't have got that chance at, the main campus, because they have their own photographers. They have their own photographers. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So it was just nice. Like, I can't really tell you, because I was just doing quite literally everything. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, they asked me to do something. I'm like, yeah, I would love to do it. Like, that's the experience. And like, I made connections with those people there. So that's also like good too. Like, it was just a nice, there's like I said, days where they were like, yeah, you can be the gaming manager. You can operate the cameras. You can take the pictures, and, lead camp counselor for a week during their, I think it was fitness camp. I was the lead camp counselor. Kids drove me up the wall that week, but it was still fun. Yeah.
Kids gonna be kids, right?
Yeah, you can't blame them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like, did you go to like any of the football games, or like what was like, how was it like, like being around the students, or just trying to help out in any way you could?
Yeah, it was so cool being around, like, because Penn State, they're from everywhere. I mean, like, there's like, I'm from Cali, Texas, and a whole another country. So it was nice getting to know like so many other types of people, and then like also watching them play and taking their pictures. Because sometimes they'd spot me and then turn around and like pose for the picture or something like that. So it's like, I actually really got to know a lot of them on a personal level, especially like the women's softball team and stuff like that. I got to know probably the best, and they were the sweetest girls ever. And it was just so nice, like being, and like I met some of the athletes through the summer camps, because they'd have the athletes be like helpers, like they have the coach of the sport, and then like the athletes would help. So that was always like, it was nice meeting some of them and like how they're like, yeah, we have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to train or something like that. It's like, but are still like being a nice person, still coming to help with the kids. So like, it's like, being a student athlete is very tough. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I give so much respect for how much time they dedicate because, being around at least the athletes that I knew at St. John's, I'm seeing them like sometimes miss class or, like they'll have to go early to practice or, they'll have to, they won't be there because they're on the road trip and, still being able to balance all of that while still keeping up with school because, number one job is student athlete, school first, sports second. Then,
I learned that at University of Tampa for sure. Their coaches do not play about the missing school. Like it's a big deal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll definitely get a little more into that later on. But like going next, I know one thing that I talk a lot about with my OFPs, and well, if I don't know if I mentioned this before, Nicole, but like when I'm referring to my OFPs, I refer to like the aspiring off-field players. So like those are like my listeners. Like it's like like my pupils. Like just like OFP, off-field player, aspiring off-field player. So yeah, in case you didn't know, but the one thing I emphasize a lot with the podcast is the aspect of mentorship because, as I mentioned, like my pastor here at home, he's a big mentor of mine. Taj Deshambe, another mentor of mine who used to work for the Oakland A's, like he's another guy. I'm a former baseball coach, Eric Clayton mentor. So I just want to know from your upbringing, knowing that mentorship is an important part of career development, who do you consider to be a mentor that helped you get your foot in the door in the sports industry, whether that was through school, your church, the camps that you worked, like, the jobs you had in the past, like who was a mentor of yours?
His name is Marcus Williams. He is the assistant athletic director at Penn State Beaver. And he was the guy that pushed for me. The athletic director, he liked me too. And but he was like, there is just something about you that we could use. And he was like, the experience, that we know you don't have the sports experience, but you have experience. So he really pushed me, and I talked to him the other day too. I still taught him and keep connections, and he's like, if you ever need anything, call me. So it was really important to have developed that relationship, and because he always taught me to like never be intimidated by anything, because like he was like, you applied for a position with no sports industry, like sports.
No experience in sports. Yeah.
Sports experience, and he was but he was like, it doesn't matter, or if you're a woman, or because you're Black, like don't let that be something that ever makes you feel small, like and he just was that driving force for me that was like, I'm not gonna let you walk out of here without a job and without this experience. Like you always had me like as a reference. If you need me to fill out a 80-minute survey, I will do it for you. And like, and I'll forever be grateful for him. Like I'm gonna get emotional because he was just really that person that was just like, and I've had a great life, great family, and like they've also mentored me. But like for sports wise, he was the one. And like I said, I had a 40-minute conversation with him just the other day. Just expressing my anxieties and with being in a new area, just my anxieties in the sports world because like everyone knows the pay when you first start is so like that's another issue, but that's like, but like he was just like, and like like you're going to get your degree and that's all you're doing the best you can, Nicole. Like and it's just like because it may feel like you're behind so and so or these people got it easier better than you, but he was like, but you there's something in you. And he just made me realize that. And I was super excited to answer this question because I absolutely adore that man. And like I put him on a pedestal and he puts me on one too. Like I'm saying, like it's just he made me, he makes me realize my worth. And I really appreciate that he did that for me. Thank you, yes. Marcus Williams. And yeah, I think I'm saying his name wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely great to hear that, Nicole, because I've always found that it's very important to have a mentor backing you because we like I'm sure me and like we know the challenges and how competitive it can be to even get that first job in sports because, everybody's trying to get them. But the great thing about starting or getting a mentor early on in your career is that that's somebody that's going to be in your corner and that's going to be willing to help you all the way through. It doesn't matter what job you're trying to go for. Because I like to say that, one thing that I consider to be one of my biggest strengths, but also a superpower of mine, is networking. And, and when you're on these jobs and when you're at school, to be able to build that rapport to find that first industry job, you want to have great networking skills and you want to find the right people that you can utilize to, be like as a mentor, because, they're going to know something that, you may not know, or they're going to, know somebody that you may not know. And, but when they do go the extra mile for you to refer you to jobs, to, help you like revise your resume, or to, put you on to, like a podcast or something, like that's where true mentorship really comes in. And I'm sure, later down the line, when later on in your career, like, again, I'm going to find out later what your long-term goal is, but I'm sure you're going to be getting a mentee of yours, or mentees, keep it plural, for you someday.
Yeah. He was definitely that driving force, that guy that was just like, I'm going to fight for you. And it's like, and I could go to him. I could call him right now if he were on this podcast. You know what I mean? Like, he was amazing. And I couldn't have asked for a better mentor.
I mean, he's an OFP himself. So like, hey, if you wanted, like, it would be great to have him on. I could get him on for
in his journey. Yeah, it'd be because he's also, I think he just got named the head basketball coach and whatever there. So he probably would be nice to talk. He's a great guy. You'd love him. But,
oh yeah. right on. Okay, so going past mentorship, we know the importance of it, but I want to go a little bit more on just like your journey when it came to applying to jobs. So, one of the things that's happening right now in the job market is that, it's super competitive, especially when we're talking about jobs in sports, where, like you can find one job where there's like, 500 applicants, and then you can find another job with like 3,000 applicants in it. So in understanding the competitive nature of sports industry jobs, when applying for them, what would you say are some of the current challenges for someone that wants to work in the sports industry right now?
Well, as someone who's applied and gotten denied, no need to sugarcoat it. It's tough, especially when you're like, you see other people's LinkedIn and they're like, I've done this for the NCAA, I've done this for the NFL, or like their college, and you're just like, it's so easy to get discouraged by that, because there's a lot of like, that's like one of the biggest challenges is coming up against those giants. It's like, someone who's like, I done this and this, because I always knew I wanted to work in the sports industry. You know what I'm saying? Some people like me, who I was general marketing and communications, and then went to sports industry, it's a little bit tougher. So I'd say that's probably like the biggest thing, is like, but also on top of that, it's like, it's not healthy to like compare yourself to those people either. Oh, yeah. Like, or feel like they're above or ahead of you. Like that's not true, because you can get picked off your personality too. And another challenge I'd say is just finding something that you're like comfortable in, and a lot of sports jobs, you're doing more than one role. Like I've noticed that too. Like you're just not one person, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm going to be here from 8 to 5, like, or 9 to 5, or whatever the work day is. And it's more like you have to be, that's another challenge. If you don't think you can just be on a random Saturday, have to show up at your job, the industry is not for you. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, you got to love it.
It's not Monday through Friday. It's not 9 to 5 or 7 to 3. It's whenever you need to be there. You know what I mean? And sometimes even when the clock goes off and you're not getting paid, sometimes you have to be there. You know what I mean? And like I've had been in meetings that were not in the 9 to 5 range. We had to be there on a Sunday. Yeah, you had to step away from the football games on Sunday and go to work. So it's just like, that's another challenge. If you're not like a flexible person, or if you're like, I want to go home from work and not think about it. Some people are like that. That then the sports industry is also, I'd say it's just not. And then also, if you can't make a sacrifice, so like I said, you have to be able to tell people, no, I have to be at my job this day too. If you're not that type of person, like I said, if you want to just go 9 to 5, go to happy hour after and then come home, eat, and then go to bed. That's not the life of anyone in sports.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, yeah,
sometimes
you're definitely right on all fronts for sure.
when you're like, and also sometimes another challenge especially that I've come across with having lack of experience in that industry was having to be like a multiple job person, because for some sports jobs don't pay enough to be like, oh, I can live off of this. So you have to just always like sometimes have to get a sidebar job. If you don't want to be like a like person, then also it's not like once you get in your position, you're going to be fine. But I mean, like, it's just like that starting point, it kind of is a little bit tough to say like, oh, I'm just going to be here working for this university or this NFL team at first. Because you may have to start as an intern or start as somebody part-time, then be full-time. Because that's how a lot of sports jobs happen. They start off by you were somebody first. Now you're like, I've seen so many people I went to school with or like people's LinkedIn who are saying, I was a part-time so-and-so, then now they're the like assistant social media manager. You know what I mean? It doesn't always just, you're just the athletic director of a university. Like, it never is going to be, I mean, like, unless you somehow get lucky, I just don't see that happening. But like, but like, if you, that's the thing, is just another time, just be like, kind of like ready to be like, I'm going to have to second job. A lot of times you're going to it just happens sometimes, like, but I'd say that's mainly like the challenge, at least the ones that I've come across. I'm sure there's a multitude of some. Like I said, like pay is a big one. And you don't want to be a big on, well, I have to be paid this much. Like if you love your job, it kind of, sometimes it doesn't matter. So
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying there, where like, the love for the job that you're in kind of outweighs how much you would get paid. But yeah, understanding, like, at the end of the day, sure, everybody's in a job to make money, but at the same time, you also want to have some satisfaction, like that comes with that job. And, and also, what you mentioned about, it's not like not everybody starts out as like the athletic director for like a big school. You got to start from the bottom, then work your way up, even if that's through internships or through like part-time work and, doing certain things like that. And even, like full-time entry level work is,
still just
like
not
the start.
like, because I've had people that have come up to me, like, who are in, like, even put, like, different roles, but, like, they're full-time, and, like, they're like, yeah, we do this because we love it, and we love our university or our said organization. Like, we are not looking to get paid six figures all the time. Like, people genuinely love working in the sports industry. There's great people in the sports industry. I'd say that's one industry where there's great people who love their job and, like, that are not just there for a check. So like, and that's like a harsh reality thing. Like, it really sometimes, even like you said, even the entry level, it's like, guys, I have a degree. Like, come on, you know what I mean? But that's just, you take what you can get. Like you said, it's not going to always be a struggle. It's not always be that way. So yeah, if you look at it like that.
But I will say this though. I think, like if you're somewhere working maybe entry level or part time or interning, but with a big name behind it, I think that does help you. Like get up the food chain a little bit faster in some ways. You for example at Penn State, everybody knows Penn State, like from football to just like really just the alumni network, and like it's a world renowned university. So having Penn State on your resume, that's like high up.
I'm glad that you mentioned that too. Yeah, like, and you hate to say that matters, but like sometimes it help you get forward in that interview process, because like you said, some places have applicants, and a lot of people don't know, so many applicants that your resume may never touch a desk. Sometimes if you don't have the right keywords that are in the job description, it'll automatically reject you out of a certain system because you didn't put like your, like, say like the word athletic wasn't used in your resume at all anywhere. It like automatically rejects it, depending on how many places get like you said, like some places get thousands of applicants. It goes through a system before it ever touches somebody first. Like, that is very possible to be happening. Like, and like, that's why they always say, like, if you looked at those, I think LinkedIn and Indeed has like kind of like their website pages where they're like resume tips. It's always kind of mimic, not lie, not like it, but mimic what they say on the application to like fit your role, so like that you don't get overlooked just because of that. Like, that's a very good, that's a great tip that people always tell you. Like, don't lie. that's against the law. But like,
Right.
just like kind of like look for keywords. Look for keywords is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Like yeah, okay, so we got through, competitive nature of sports, and then now, as far as just the advice that maybe you were given by your mentors or by your former supervisors, like what advice would you give to someone that wants to work in the sports industry but not be discouraged by the competitive application pool for sports industry jobs?
As someone who was discouraged by that not too long ago, you have to keep pushing. Like somebody's going to notice you, and it's not always about submitting a resume to a company or a college or something like that. Sometimes you have to go on LinkedIn, then beef up your LinkedIn, get these certifications that like can help you out. Like there's free certifications on the internet, and from front office sports, Google certifications that you can get to help your resume look like something. It's not always, I'm just going to apply for this job. And if they don't hear back, that's the end of it. And I know it's like kind of like embarrassing, like be that guy that was like harassing people, but like it's not. And people in the sports industry love people who are like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get, and even if you still don't get the job after you've reached out or looked these people up or something like that, it's still like about trying. Like it's about not giving up, because it's easy to get discouraged when you're like, well, apply for that, didn't get that. And it's just like, but you have to keep going. Like there's somewhere and someone that's going to look at you. And everyone might not be religious or feel this way, but like what's meant for you will be for you. And if it's not, then it just wasn't. And you never know, like sometimes getting rejected is something that can push you into something that was supposed to be better for you. Maybe you were looking for a $15 an hour job, but the one you actually get is 20 or something like that, or like you never know. Like you can't take rejection so wholeheartedly, because like that person who is behind looking at your resume or something is not personally just, this guy is not good. They haven't even seen you yet. They don't know that. So it's just like, don't get discouraged if you don't even get interviewed. Mind you, they don't know you. So like if they got to know you, you may have had a chance. So it's just like you have to like not take rejection so personally, because it's not. They don't know you. You know what I mean? Like you can't look at someone's LinkedIn or someone's even just an application and be like well, they're gonna be terrible at their job. They may have the greatest willpower in the world to do something. So it's just, to me, it's not always about just like, oh, I failed. And it's going to hurt for a while, or it's going to be like, it's going to feel like getting that, rejection email or letter is kind of just, it is discouraging, because I've gotten plenty of them. I probably still have some of them on saved in my phone,
Raising my hand to that too. So.
and it's something like you feel like you were qualified for. You're like, somebody was more qualified than me. And you're just like, you can't take it personal. I think that's the biggest takeaway from here is like, keep trying and not taking it personal. Like, don't. Like, because like, and always try again. Like, like if you are a junior or senior in college and you applied for the internships that each NFL team individually has, and you didn't get it your junior year, try again your senior year. Like, why let that, keep you down? Like, it's persistence is key to people who work in the sports industry. They love people who are just willing and like, because like even in my role, I have a certain role. I do things outside of my role because if I can help somewhere, I'm gonna help. So like, yeah, that's really all I'd say about that. It's just like, yeah, like keep trying and just don't take it personal, because it's not really.
Yeah, like you definitely touched on the fact of not taking things personal, and and I do remind OFPs that this is like you have to have like thick skin to go through the process of trying to find a sports job, because because I feel like if there was somebody that was used to being told yes their entire life, I think I would give them the process of trying to apply for a sports job and have them handle like how to listen to no's. And and that's really it battle hardens you for like the real world at times, where not everybody's going to like you, not everybody's going to say yes, and it's really just up to you to find out how are you going to handle when you do get a rejection, or when you do get somebody that tells you no. How are you going to change your mentality, and like are you going to keep moving forward, or are you just going to quit? And I tell the OFP is like don't quit. like keep going,
Please.
achieve.
Yeah.
Like the motto that I always close out with the episode is achieve what you believe. Like if you believe that you're going to get a job in sports, like
Yeah.
do everything in your power to achieve it.
Make
I
it.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just about willpower. But I think what in me saying that, and you like experience it for yourself, it's a testament in a way to people that are working in the industry right now, because I did an episode a while back talking about like the three internships I did like while in school, before, like after, or like, well, this was before the one I did this recently, past summer with NASCAR, where the job satisfactory in the sports industry is so high because people understand that
Mhm.
like the jobs that they're in, they just don't give them out to anybody. Like they have to earn their place for where they
Un-
are, and understand that the work that they're doing is a fulfillment to like the struggle that they face just trying to find that job. Because again, like I can't say exactly how many hurdles everybody has jumped over just to make sure that they get that sports industry job, or even try to keep one. But at least why I can understand, and why the sports industry is like is booming right now, is because the people that are working in it are the people that have experienced pain, experienced rejection, experienced people telling them that they can't do it, and just using that as fuel to willpower themselves to
Mhm.
be able to get in those positions.
Yeah, and as someone who got rejected and did finally find their way, it always ends up being worth it. Like it's like you said, it's such a like the satisfaction. It's such a fun industry to be in. Like you like meet so many people. You get to go to this game, that game, and like you get to run this program or this. It's like you said, it's like, and like because like all that saying always goes, under pressure you can become a diamond or a busted
Yep.
pipe. So it's just like it's like it's a hard industry to break in. Like you said, the competition is crazy. It's like, and because like you said, it's an ever growing industry. It's booming right now, but it's like it's one it will be worth it once you do find your way. Yeah, like
Hmm.
it will. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. So
because
Nicole,
even I'm
now,
sorry,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
even I'm not done writing my story. Like I'm not gonna be in that role forever.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm like just starting. I'm like, yeah, finally, just starting. I'm so excited.
Yeah, for sure. But this is actually a great segue to go into talking about now what you do for the University of Tampa. So
Yeah.
like your new athletic academic advisor. You've been on the job for 3 weeks, as you mentioned. So what has it been like? What have you learned, like in finishing out like your, I guess I would say like your first. I'm just gonna say like it's your first month on the job, because even though
Yeah,
like there's
pretty
four
much.
weeks in a month, it's still you pretty much been on the job for a month. So like, what
Yeah.
has it been like being in Tampa, being in a new environment, and working close with the athletes there?
Well, like I was saying to you, it's like being in the new area. It's like also like I said, a culture shock. So I have to get past that barrier too, in the way I just everything is just kind of different. But with the athletes, because I've met all of mine at this point, and like it's just like it's just like it's so fun meeting so many people, and I meet and like I've been like just mentoring them to try to be good or try to get their grades up or be the work to their potential that they have, and sometimes they don't know they have. Like
Hmm.
it's just like because I've never been the mentor, I've always been the mentee. So it's
Hmm.
just like be that person that you needed, or be the person like be the person that Marcus was to me, to them. And it's like tell them like there, because there is opportunity, because I work with some athletes that are struggling a little bit more, and their grades may not be the best, and we're working to get them up and
Hmm.
something like that. It's just like trying to tell them like, and sometimes you'd be surprised how many people like threatening them with their sport does not work. Like you will not
Oh,
play next semester if you don't get your grades up. They'll just
oh yeah.
okay. You know what I mean? Like so like it's hard to be like, okay, so I gotta find something that matters to you. You
Hmm.
know? So like you know what I mean? It's just like sometimes you just have to like figure out what that waypoint is. Some people can't study using Quizlet. Some people can't study using
Hmm.
material. They have to study in unique ways. They may have to watch a video, or they may have to like physically write the notes over and over again to retain information. You just have to figure out that niche for them. Like it's just like because like day to day in that job is kind of more consistent than it was at Penn State. but it's like I go there, I maybe meet like 2 or 3 a day, and like each of them have we pull up their, their class work they have to do, and I know what they have to do, so they can't bamboozle me. Oh, that got pushed back. Show me your work. It's like, 'cause I have their syllabi, I know when they practice, I know, so they can't get, and they're not getting anything past me. And so it's just like, I just have them, and I go through like what's due, what was already due, like what did you get on this grade? How could you improve? Then we go into like, okay, so this is next week. What do you need to do to get this done? Or what do you need to do to get an A on this test? Let them figure that out, offer my advice, and like, so I could tell them next time we meet, I'm gonna look at your notes for your class, like how have you started studying? Like I've asked them all the time, like pull that assignment up, because no, you didn't start it, because you can't believe what they say, because they're just trying to get in the meeting, get back out, and go get Chick-fil-A or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like I have to, and you don't want to be authoritative with someone that's 2 years younger than you.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, I also work on building a relationship with them. They matter to me, because I always told them, like, the other mentors are like, there's a certain grace period where you don't talk to me. You don't call me. It's disrespectful. I told them, if you call me at any time, I'm going to answer, like, because you matter to me and your grace matter. Like, I was like, they may have said that in the past, or those other people, but like, you can call me when you need me. Like, that's what I was saying, because I'm just like that. I just want them to know, like, you have somebody like that's always not just there for you academically, but like mentally too. Like, if you're in trouble, but first of all, you have to go to your coach legally. They have to report to their coach by the NCAA. But like, and you need to just someone to talk to. I can like point them to the person that will help them. It's like, if they're having trouble in the athletics department, or they can't get a hold of somebody, I can walk over to the office and be like, do it. You know what I mean? Like help this student out. Like, so like, that's what I'm saying. I'm also like a waypoint to get, so like, to get them somewhere else. Like, if they need a tutor, then come to me and I'll go find them one. So it's just like I'm not, like I said, it's just weird being the mentor this time. So like, it's just
like if you don't mind me asking, like, I know it's the fall season, so you got sports like football, volleyball, and soccer going on right now. Like, what athletes are you working with the most at the moment?
Actually, so that's great. I'm working with spring athletes the most right now. Like some of them are in season, but like lacrosse and soccer, those athletes are, but like most of mine are these spring sports. So they actually like have time to, like, when they do meet me, it's just like, I know that you're not actively in your sport. They are practicing, but you're not actively in your sport, so your care levels might be down a little bit, But like, the good thing about the spring athletes is they know they have to be eligible for the next semester, so their grades may not be as tough or bad. Bad is a really bad word to use for that, but like, their grades may not be as good as some of the ones that are in season, because the people that are the people that are like going into their season know they have to be eligible, but the people who are now are already eligible. So like, it's kind of like tough to get the ones that are in season. You're just like, you still have to care, even though like when your season's over, you're not going to be in your sport again until next fall. Like, you still have to, like, and it's just like, and then the ones that are also in season, it's like, they're so busy right now because they're competing. And University of Tampa has a great athletic program. When you walk into their gym, like, or like their athletic department, like the area, like the building it's in, just championships all over the place, like all down the walls, and so it's just like, so they do have a great program, and everyone there does want to see those students succeed. It's just about sometimes making them see themselves in like I can do this.
Making them believe it.
Making them, and sometimes it's something and that's like something they don't, making them care, like like, because I told one kid straight up, and I was just, because I like, it's not funny. It's like, you are gonna have a life after these next 4 years. Like, sometimes like I don't mean to sound rude, but like, there's going to be something like after this sport. Like, even if you go on to play professionally, like at some point your education's, you're going to need it more than you think you are now.
Oh yeah.
Like, like, that's not saying like some people don't. A lot of student athletes just, they get caught up in that moment, and not that, like, a lot of them get lost after they graduate because nobody's telling them that. Like, it's just like the university needs them for what they need them for, which is to play that sport, get them championships, money, and stuff like that. And after, they're like, well, I'm lost. It's like, I've seen that happen to a lot of them, and I don't want that to be the case of anyone I work with.
Yeah, and Nicole, I'm actually look. This is exactly why I want you to come on the show because like because I'll give you a little bit of a story about myself here real quick.
Hmm.
So like when I was in high school, I played baseball. Baseball was my primary sport growing up. I played since I was six, and I'm not going to say like I was a pretty good like I was a really good student in high school, and I had straight A's in my class, 4.0 GPA, all that stuff, and but like what the one thing that really worried me because like I tried to walk on for the baseball team at St. John's, but fortunately everybody knows the story and probably told it more than once on this podcast that I was a failed walk on, and then I had to transition over to finding different avenues to go down, like within my major being sports management. And that's when I learned about broadcasting, joined the student radio station, and then doing athletic event staff work for St. John's Athletics, like working like scanning tickets or ushering and cleaning up at the volleyball games, the basketball games, or the soccer games, being a ball boy or something like that. And the one thing that was like the motivation and the inspiration for why I wanted to start this podcast is because I want to think about the kids that are, playing sports right now, whether that's in high school or in college, that are still that maybe not have a shot at making it pro. Because, as you mentioned, not everybody's going to go pro at the sport that they're playing
We
right
know the
now.
1 in a million statistic. Yeah.
Exactly. Like yeah, like it's very slim that like kids that are playing sports in high school or college are going to go pro at the sport that they're playing. And the motivation of me wanting to start this is to inspire and help those kids that may be in that position to have the realization that, hey, if I don't make it in the sport I'm playing, what am I going to do? Well, the thing is, with them being first off in the sport that they're participating in, they have the knowledge of sports as an athlete. So what can I do to help them seek knowledge and understanding sports from a business perspective? Because if I can use this podcast to help motivate those kids that are coming up to understand that yeah, like the old saying, ball is life, but sometimes maybe it isn't. Like how can I motivate these kids to or young individuals, I'm not just going to say kids, young individuals, how can I
Yeah.
motivate them to get into understanding like the different avenues that go down in sports, like through sports management, going to school for to get a degree in sport management, sport medicine, sports law, sports business, sports marketing, like how sports administration, if they or fitness and recreation, like how can I motivate them to be able to do that? Because and even speaking on us for a second, knowing that you and me are like a black, being in the sports industry, like we understand that in the black community that like yeah, like sports is a huge part of our culture, but also we also want to make sure that we can keep kids off the street, like if they don't make it in their sport, because we know stories about kids that get caught up in trouble and
Yeah.
get into like reckless behavior if they're like being distracted of what they're doing outside the classroom or off the field. And I want to make sure that I can help protect our generation and our culture by putting them on to the different avenues they can find, like that's maybe not athletic related but still sports related, just knowing that they've had the background to do those things.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many like people that are like just being an athlete can get you in the door. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's just hard having that this is all I know conversation. Like all I know is football. All I know is basketball. And that's sometimes true. And it's just like but they've hit their peak at their sport to where it's time to go into life, or like you said, like they didn't make it to their specific league or something like that, and they're just like lost. And that's a tough time for people to be in. I mean, because even like people who aren't in sports, just regular, I just graduated. Um, like that a lot of people go through that, and and they don't have the mentorship or somebody's like or even parents that are just like you can do it. You can. Everybody doesn't have that. So it's just like, so it's just like it's hard having that conversation with somebody. And I've seen, we've seen like I'm like Western Pennsylvania is a sports area. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
it. People who really just like lost themselves or just like don't think anything else is possible, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not true. You know.
Yeah, and what you're doing, like at UTampa, working with the athletes, making sure that they're staying focused on their classwork and while still being able to play their sport, even if they're in season or not in season. You're doing a service that's not only in it to keep young individuals on track, but to even change their lives. Because if they didn't have the job that you're in, like in the university system at NCAA D1, D2, D3, or NAIA schools, what would their coaches be telling their kids to do? Like, what direction would they be going into, like once they're done with school and once they graduate? I mean, like they have the degree, like they have the sports background. So what's going to be the next step for them? And
Right.
I commend you for being in the position that you're in right now to remind the students that you work with that there are those other possibilities, that if they do want to stay in sport. I mean, I don't know if the athletes that go to you like have like aspirations to want to become a GM, a coach, or a scout, or work in ticket sales or marketing in some form in the sports industry, but at least you can give them the guidance that can allow them to see
Yeah.
what their opportunities lie outside just their sport.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part of my role, along with like, keeping them on track for their grades, is like you have a future. You know what I mean? And a lot of them don't get internships because of their sport. It when they go to college, they don't have experience, but like you said, like that, just your degree and like that you're an athlete. People who hire people know that that's probably why you don't have an internship. You were
Right?
playing
Yeah, busy playing sports.
So like, don't get discouraged. Yeah, just because like I definitely like to reiterate that sometimes, like when like to some people, like you have to try to just say that, like and there's some people who are really good and you like they're like, yeah, I know I'm going, but then there's some people like who aren't sure. You have to make sure they know that you can be successful outside of like physically playing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like a great point that you bring up there, and because being a student athlete is in a way like a full-time job, and like traveling, going to class, getting up early in the morning to get the workouts. They have to go to like a two a day practice like later that day. I mean, hardly any time to even breathe for how much work that they're putting in just to not only represent their athletic program, but also represent the university, especially when you're traveling all over the country, to different states and different cities and big markets, playing in front of, like hundreds, thousands of people. Because, at the end of the day, like you're playing for who, like this, like what's on the front of your jersey.
Yeah, and yeah, like image and all that stuff. Like you have to worry about that too. You have to realize sometimes as athletes, you can't be the one in the videos at the parties, acting a fool, because you're, like you said, your tagline to that name that's on your chest. And then when you get to the league, you can work for the one that's on the back. But like as of right now, it's about, like college sports aren't just so individual as the major leagues are. Like everyone knows that Tom Brady was who he was because he was good. Like, he in any organization he was going to play for, he was going to be good. But when you're in college, you're not necessarily Tom Brady. You are that school's quarterback. So it's a completely different. You get a name once you get there. Like, but you and even anywhere, you still can't just act like anything. Antonio Brown proved that he was major talent, still probably is, can still play in the league. It just your behavior, you blew it. I mean, like, that's a whole different ballgame going into that right there too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Sorry, yeah, or Antonio Brown, like a disappointed. Didn't work out well with the Steelers, but different strokes for different folks, I guess. Yeah, yeah, but Nicole, like going a little bit more further on to what you're doing, like what would you say is something that you've learned from working in the position that you didn't expect to learn before getting it?
Ooh, that's that one too. Like, I didn't like when I first got into it. I didn't know it will require so much outside time and so much like you get to know people on such a personal level. Like I didn't realize like you always have your work friends, you always have people but like you really get to know people on a personal level, especially the athletes. Like you get to know because like sometimes they'll just come and they'll just tell me their personal life and stuff like that. Like I just didn't realize how full force like some of that would be, even in like, not that my role is small, but like, it's like, I'm not the athletic director. So like that, like, and like realizing that I would be like, you're not just doing one thing is another thing. I think Toby Westbrook is like your job description. Yeah, it's your job description, but you go out of that all the time. Like there's like then times where like I've noticed that I'm like, is this part of my role? As I'm sitting there as the game day manager at a game, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like it's just like I just realized that you're gonna have to be prepared to do things that are completely out of your role or your pay grade. You know, it's like this is if I'm game day manager, I'm gonna get paid, 6 figures. But like it's just you have to just realize that you're gonna be doing a whole lot of just like anything. They can ask you to do anything at any moment. Just especially if you're working at a big organization, you probably do have a specific role. But like if you're talking about like either smaller universities or even just like you're gonna have to step out a lot of times, like or like cross genres. Like you're gonna like you can like sometimes I work with the marketing and advertising department. I'm in the athletic academic department because like there's athletics marketing, athletics academic. Each of those have their own like assistant athletic director. So like I'm underneath the academics, but I work with marketing and advertising. Like it did not say that I was going to be doing that. So it's like what I mean. So like it's just like that. You just have to get ready for that. And I love doing that. I love when other departments ask me to do something because that means you're good at what you do.
Yeah, so and it's also. And it's also healthy to be well-rounded too. You just don't want to, like be like linear, like when it comes to a job, like especially if you're in sports. The one thing I like to say, about myself is that I like to dip my toe in different departments within the organization because I want to learn. Like I want to learn like how other people do their jobs and like also gain the knowledge that I might not be getting from sticking to my singular role.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
I've never picked up a camera in my life, but at Penn State I did, and I absolutely loved it. Like you said, you never want to be limited. So I can even tell people like, yeah, I mean, if the photographer's sick, I can step in. You want to be that guy that's like, yeah, you're well, like you said, well-rounded. That's like that. Like it just kind of like took me aback that I was like, whoa, I'd be having to do a whole lot of just like and like. But I absolutely love it. I love when I get asked by other departments to do stuff. Like I'm always that employee that's like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? Like. Making graphics, that comes to making graphics or just like doing anything. Like I just love the sports. I love the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, so as far as your, like for where you are now, and I'm sure you have, like bigger aspirations, like what are your long-term goals when it comes to wanting to have a career in the sports industry? Like where do you see yourself, say like next 5-10 years, give yourself a timeline.
Yeah. So like, in the maybe I could be the end all for me is to be I want to be an athletic director. I like that's one thing I think, like that's why I'm going for the sport management was because I want to be an athletic director or something or like run some kind of sports program. That's like what I want to do and with my job and like maybe that may not be like a 5-year thing, but definitely that could potentially be a set. Because everyone knows athletic directors, they die in their positions. They don't leave. What I mean? Like they don't leave. So it's just like so it is kind of like a tough thing to get into. But if you start, like I said, advisor, that's and then you just build up. Like you never know. So like it's just like you have to like not burning those bridges to where like you don't have when you get apply for a job, you need references, and you're like, I don't know who to go to. So like that's important to like, but like yeah, definitely like a long term, like maybe like 10 years. I want to run an athletic program or be an athletic director, like even if that's So I just want to be like the head person in charge of some kind of athletic kind of thing. Like that's the end all.
Is there like a dream school that you want to be an AD for? Like what's your dream school?
A dream school. What's up? Definitely, because even like going back to my university, Coastal Carolina, like even just like that would be like awesome. Like, and even I shouldn't aim for the stars, I guess, but like even working for like a humongous school like Penn State and the only thing it's just like and not to say that I'm discouraged, but it's like how many of them are black and how many of them are women is just like, but like, hey, I'll change that stigma. I mean, if I have to be the face of it, you know what I'm saying? So like, and because like all this like they're man, that's like a male role, but it's just like
I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like, well, come on, we're here to break barriers, Nicole. Come
yeah.
on.
That's why I was like, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to like being that one that just like, who cares about that? Like,
Yeah.
like just go for it. Like who
Yeah.
cares?
I think Nicole, like for what's happening right now, and I believe it's like at a great advantage, at least for you. I want to be an AD. Is that if you look all over, like there are women, black women, like starting to get like CEO, C suites, even like GM roles, like are all around the sports industry. I mean, like they are coming up, and I think, 5 years, 10 years, I can't say exactly what the world's going to be like, but what I will know is that we'll be in a space to where it's not going to feel like as uncomfortable as it may feel right now. Because I think, right now people are still, some people, I'm not saying all people, some people are still getting used to seeing change.
Yes.
And, in a 5 year window and a 10 year window, that change can turn into something becoming normal
Yeah.
where like normality, like even though normality isn't great for everything,
Mhm.
normality is great for certain things that haven't been
Yeah.
seen as normal
Such as like
like for a long
diversity.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And like
This.
instead of waiting for somebody to be the change and you follow them, why not just be the one? So it's just like, so I aspire to be an AD or like run some kind of athletic program, and like no matter how long it takes me, that's my dream, and like I'm willing to actually go shoot for that. And like I said, I'm going back to school so I can, that'll help
Mhm.
with that. And
Right.
I'm going, and like because my education's always been big to me. Like school's always been a big deal
Hmm.
for me. And because I've actually been one of those people, not to say I like school, but like I like being
You,
educated. Is what
yeah.
I like being educated. Like it's always been, and something my parents also emphasized too, because you know they weren't given the same, they weren't dealt the same cards I was. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And Pittsburgh's real industrial, so like everyone just went straight into their industry in their day. They didn't go to college. Like everyone was just like,
Hmm.
yeah, we just work in steel mill. We just do this. It was never, I'm gonna go be this. Not to say that there was no opportunity. It was just like it was not likely. Like, now it's just like you can go be what you want to be, even if you're first generation. Like
Hmm.
that means nothing. So, like you said, in the world's embracing change and diversity because it's important. And every time, we've been seeing like the videos of little girls who've seen Halle Bailey as a little mermaid, just like staring at the screen, couldn't believe that somebody looked like them. It could be a beautiful singer and a mermaid. You know what I mean? Like that stuff matters to at least like someone who was like, they're like, oh, we're not represented. And it's just like to see it finally happen is just really good.
Yeah. Again, like well, I'm hoping that way society's gone, we can what may seem like change now can become normality later. That's just
100%.
how I want to see it. And again, just you emphasize the importance of learning. Like and it also pertains to the role that you're in right now. I mean, you're helping athletes with their grades. They're helping them
Yeah.
like stay on the right track in school. So of course, you have the importance of education. But like I always go back to like a quote that my grandmother told me is like she would always say, and this is a quote that my grandmother got from her mother, and she passed it on to me. And she would always remind me that a day without learning is a day without living. And I feel that when you're in a position where you start to like dismiss the importance of learning something, that's just it's not. I feel like I don't see that as being a good way to live. So it's great that as you're going through like your working experience and like going back to school, you're still taking time to learn. And hopefully, and this could be something that you can instill in your athletes as well, that even though like it may seem like college may be a drag, but at the same time like still embrace the importance of learning. Like don't see it as like education or just school, see it as learning. I think that's the narrative that we have to shift into now, where we're taking time to learn and not just treat it as what it is or what it may seem.
Perfectly worded. I couldn't say that even better. Like, like you said, if you look at it differently, it'll change your perspective on it. Because everyone's just like, well, I'm going to get my degree so I can just get my job.
Yeah,
That's
nah.
not
Not how you
necessarily,
want to see it.
yeah, like you're just like, it's a waste of $50K. So,
Yeah, it's an investment in
yeah.
yourself. I mean, yeah, for sure, absolutely. So, Nicole, it's definitely been a pleasure to have you on. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I want to close out our conversation with one last question. And as far as what you've talking about you coming from small beginnings, growing up in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, like starting out, going to Duquesne, transferring to Coastal Carolina, working at Penn State, now being in your current position with University of Tampa. What piece of advice do you want to leave the aspiring OFPs with?
Yeah, to like reiterate is just to, like everybody says, I hate to sound like everybody else, but keep going. You never know where you're going to end up. You never, you know what I mean? Like, this one little internship could lead you into what you're going to do for the rest of your life, or like meeting that one person could change the rest of your life. Like, that's why I was like, you always go to everything. Go to job fairs, go to career fairs, go to be nice, to be in with your coach, like be with your professors, because those people could help you get somewhere. Like, and everybody said that, was like, and everyone, no one really takes it seriously, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. But like, it's seriously, because like you're gonna get a job where they're gonna be like, I've had some jobs ask for 3 references, I've had some ask for 6. So I'm like, it's just like, you have to know 6 people that can help, say, vouch for you. But imagine if you don't. You know what I'm saying? So like, make sure who is, like you said, that whole networking thing. Like, make sure who is people who like you. Like, I'm just saying, like, because there's a lot of people, like I said, there's life after your 20s. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not always about right now, because like the world we live in is so right now. Like, it's just like, I have to be the athletic director right now.
Yeah, instant gratification.
Like, yeah, and it's just like, there's beauty in the journey. Like, it's just like, there's something about being rejected that and some people, it lights a fire up underneath them. For me, I'm like, that, so just like, some people, and then some people, like I said, they fall apart. It's just like, you can just either decide what path, you just have to decide what path are you going to take. And it's just like, so it's just like, that's all I like really would like to leave off by saying, is just like, try. There's going to be people who apply for a job who have worked with, with their athletic director, worked with so-and-so in the sports industry. Who cares? You never know. They might like your personality. Like I said, they might like your personality. So it's just like, there's like, yeah, they have the resume, they have the grades, they have the numbers, but do they have what it takes? So it's just like, that means nothing. It's like, and it's just like, and it's like, for everyone's journey is not going to be the same. Some people are going to get there way quicker. And that's just, that's just the way of the game. Some people just like, they child actors, only that they found their thing when they were 5. Michael Jackson found his thing when he was 5 years old. Some people don't find it till they're 50. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, just be patient. Just be patient, please. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, without patience, you're never going to get anywhere. Like, if someone makes you mad the first time on the job, you quit. Come on, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, or you get rejected. Oh, I don't really like that flyer. Can you tweak it? Like, you don't have to lose your head. And like that's just gonna happen. Somebody's just, like you said, some people are not gonna like you, some people are. So it's like, that's what I'm saying, like, patience and just persistence. And like, even if like you feel like you're being annoying to them, you're not. To a hiring manager, there's no, like, really, like, you're not being annoying. You want it, and that means a lot to them. So like, just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this well said, Nicole. And like, not only did you just motivate the OFPs with that statement, but you also motivated me. I mean, that's definitely something that all of us can take to heart, not just in the sports industry, but really just in life, just with anything. Yeah, thank you for that.
100%. And thank you for listening to, because I'm a talker.
I mean, that's what I'm here for. That's the life of a podcaster. Just hearing people listen to people talk. So yeah, thanks so much. But yeah, Nicole Vreen, athletic academic advisor at University of Tampa. Aspiring OFP, or even like I'll even say this, current OFP right now, making waves in the industry, and definitely a bright future, and hopefully becoming the AD. So hopefully, down the line when you're the AD at Penn State or some big NCAA college, I could get a free ticket from you because, hey, Nicole Vreen was an off-field player alum. So that's what we're hoping for. So yeah, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for this interview. It's been great. And, and what you said will inspire the OFPs and people that are going to come across to listen to this episode or watch it. They'll be motivated and moved by what you said.
And thank you for having me. And I want to pre-thank everyone for already listening. And this is such a great thing. Anyone on here is going to have something good to say. So,
oh yeah.
And I'm glad I was part of this. Glad that you reached out. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But that's going to wrap it up here for the Off-Field Players podcast. Thank you again so much to Nicole Vreen for coming on for another informational interview edition. And as always, if you watch the video version of this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the link with anybody that you know that's, looking to want to get into the sports industry, trying to find motivation, or even, interested in wanting to go to University of Tampa. For any high school seniors that come across this, and that has a shot at, playing sports at University of Tampa, definitely reach out to Nicole Vreen. I'll make sure to leave her information down in the description so you can find her on LinkedIn, connect with her in any way you can. And also, if you watch or listen to the audio version of this episode, make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public to keep up to date with future episodes. And also, of course, a reminder of social media. Make sure to follow the Off-Field Players podcast on TikTok and Instagram at OFP_podcast. Again, it's at OFP_podcast on social media, Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, make sure to keep keeping up to date with the podcast and also helping me grow the OFP family. So that's going to wrap it up for me and Nicole Vreen. I want to say thank you so much. If you watched all the way till the end or listened all the way to the end, make sure to stay safe, stay motivated, stay healthy, stay blessed. And as always, make sure to achieve what you believe.